everybody, I'm Carla with Race to Walk, and it is time for another update in Hack the Saga. So what this is about, for a number of years, I did book reviews and Bible studies on this channel. My tagline is sharing good thoughts about good words, and people thought that sharing meant that it was okay if they could steal them. It happened to be people that I knew, people from the apologetics program and the journal that I was a part of were the primary conspirators. And so anyway, that's led to a whole thing. So in order to cover up for the things that they did and the things that they stole, because they're frauds, they started hacking, blocking my communications, all of that. And I've reported to authorities beginning in April of 2024. And after I submitted a 200-page report about, because I didn't know they were involved at this point, at that time. I knew two people that were involved, Sean and Davina White. That's when I had my, by May, I knew. July, I had written a 200-page report, and I'd seen a lot of online activity that I could tell was criminal activity, submitted it to the FBI, and waited a week, nobody contacted me. And then I did this 3-hour live stream and message to my stalker because I'd been like hacked nonstop, pretty relentlessly. Not only hacked, but they were running all these fake accounts. And I didn't know in the beginning, obviously, who was behind it, but they were, basically making these threatening comments, like things that I could tell that it was being pushed into my feed, directed towards me, but it wasn't something that, anyone would be able to act on. And so really a lot of cyberstalking, harassment, hacking my devices. Literally, I've had people in my phone nonstop since December 2023. And so anyway, made all these reports. I actually had Joshua Mitchell at the Whitburn Police tell me hacking wasn't a crime. I don't know about the state, y'all. This is like, I grew up here, but what the heck? So anyway, I started documenting all of these things, and I'm up to update 50. This is number 58. So if you're interested in the whole big gory mess, you can go to this page on my website, racewalk.org, Hack the Saga, and you can just see, the whole series of this. And so anyway, that's what this is about. It's not what my channel was originally about. It's not things that I would like to be spending my time on, but that's what I have to do because, basically it's literally I'm not going to lay down and die so these losers can take over my work. And so I just have to keep documenting it until somebody gets off their butt and actually puts them in jail. So anyway, what we're going to be going over in this stream is, first we're going to do an update on the stolen home. I happened to come across, while all this is going on, a fraudulent sheriff's sale in Marion County. It was for a house on Fern Ridge Road owned by the Stroshine family in St. Oregon. So I'm going to do an update on that. Also have a message for Willamette University, which is here in Salem. And third one is I'm going to give information about a police report that I filed on the dean of the School of Christian Thought for Houston University, or Houston Christian University. And then I have a message from Mark Terry, Second Baptist Church in Kingwood. And then the topic of the stream is actually the erasing of Michael Ward. So I have a lot that I'm going to cover, and so I'm just going to get into it. So if you've been following this, I started on July 21st. If you go back to that Hack the Saga page and scroll down to July 31st, I started a series of updates about, I went to sheriff's sale because I had seen some sketchy probates or sketchy public notices in the Kaiser Times. And I was like, what's going on with this? So I decided that I was going to just go down and go to the sheriff's sale and just see what happened. And so I did. And it was delayed an hour. And then the people that showed up at the postponed time, the sheriff's department staff took them back in a corner. They moved them from the steps, because if you've ever read a public notice, it will say, I will sell on this day on the county courthouse steps. Took him back in a corner, which I thought that was sketchy, and then the bidders hid behind a column. It was just all kinds of sketchy. So here's the thing. I don't really know anything about sheriff sales. My degree, not my degree, but I did sell real estate in the 90s. So I have been through real estate school and I was licensed. But you know what? I had 3 girls. And I also have taught Sunday school 3rd graders for 8 years. And I was over a lot of events for Girl Scouts. So I've been around kids a lot and I have guilt when I see it. And so because of how sketchy they were acting, I went in and I researched the sale of the property, and it was very obviously fraudulent. The loans that the property was foreclosed on weren't even valid loans. So anyway, I've gone to police departments. I haven't gotten, not a single police report. It wouldn't take a report. I went to the Marion County DAs initially, first thing after I discovered all this, and they said it had to be filed with a police department first. And once the police department opened a case, and they would investigate it. Well, they wouldn't even take a report. And so the last department I talked to was actually the Marion County Sheriff's Department itself, and the officer there said that he started looking into it, and then the investigator with the department told him not to investigate it any further. And he said, if you want to take it, want to do anything else, I guess you can file a complaint with the Attorney General's office. Okay. So I guess, I've been hack stalked, it's like, I don't know, what is a crime? What is a crime here? Is a barking dog, is that more of a concern and like a noise nuisance, a bigger deal than literally stealing property? I apparently. So anyway, wait, where am I? Okay. So I'm gonna go back. So I did file a complaint. I've done all I can do, and the last thing I could do was I filed a complaint with the Attorney General's office. So this is the response that I got 3 weeks later after I filed it. Thank you for the information you provided. Information the public shares helps us identify patterns of unlawful business practices that harm consumers. We regularly investigate and prosecute violations of consumer protection laws on behalf of the state of Oregon. We also share information with other agencies and use what we learn to educate the public and help pass laws that better protect consumers. The Consumer Protection section enforces, let me clarify this. This is in the Attorney General's office for the state of Oregon, okay? The Attorney General's office. This is like, to me, it looks like the highest in terms of law enforcement you can get, right? Okay, so the Consumer Protection section enforces specific consumer laws and does not have authority over many areas, including landlord-tenant issues. That's not what is the case here. Insurance, also not the issue. Homeowners associations, not the issue. Government agencies and officials. Okay, so if they don't, then who does? If the Attorney General does not investigate corruption and fraud in government agencies and officials, who the hell does? Who does? Disputes between individuals, most business-to-business disputes. Okay, we reviewed the information you provided and determined that the issues raised by your complaint are outside of our authority. Therefore, with this letter, we are closing our file. The information you provided will remain on file as a public record. We have enclosed a list of additional resources you may find helpful. If you have questions about your rights, we encourage you to promptly consult with a lawyer. Thank you for contacting us again. Rachel Vigiano, Office Specialist, Consumer Protection Section, Civil Enforcement Division, Oregon Department of Justice, 1162 Court Street, Northeast, Oregon, Salem, Oregon 97301. But let me just say, you're never going to find them there because they aren't on site. They aren't on site. You just have to submit things like this. And then the office number. Okay. What the heck? Okay, so I Googled her name. She's an office specialist. An office specialist is making this determination. This is what came up for Rachel Vigiano. A wedding thing on the knot. And she's some sort of actress on air with, that's who's coming up. That's the name that's coming up. So these are the possibilities. Number one, state of Oregon really does not care about fraudulent court documents, mortgage fraud, property theft, and money laundering. That's a possibility because that's what's going on in these fake public notices. Or Rachel Vigiano is a complete nimwit and she does not have the comprehension skills to understand what these issues are. Okay, so either one, Oregon doesn't care about fraud, or two, Rachel's an idiot and she needs some more training, or three, this could just be one of many times when these losers that are interfering and blocking my communications have once again done that. I don't know, but I'm just showing you this is a response that I received from the Oregon Attorney General's office. Do with that what you want, whatever. Okay, the next thing is, this is just a message for Willamette University. Willamette is a private university here in Salem, and they bill themselves as a top private university in Oregon, which could be true. I don't know, but whatever. So I went down there because they're known for their law school, and I thought, okay, so I have been sending emails, but my emails are blocked, and my every single, like, honestly, this last one, I just realized the first account takeover happened when I reformatted my phone, and what downloaded as the Play Store, I know it was a corrupted Google Play Store, and so it was just shot. And so anyway, whatever. Regardless, so I just went in there because I'm thinking, okay, so a university that educates lawyers must know somebody who specializes in civil rights. Okay, so we're just gonna, this is, oh shoot, let me see, hold on, I need to switch. Okay, so I'm gonna go back. This is our website. And let me just say, since I've been doing a lot of comments about branding, I don't know who you did your website, but I'm not impressed. Number one, the number one rule of branding is that you never break it. This is just black. If you go to their color is this really kind of a cardinal red. It's more of a maroon. And that red isn't even their color. And I guess you could say maybe that yellow ties into their brand, but it's not a gold. It just doesn't, this does not tie into their brand at all. And I don't know if it's just that there's a bunch of people doing websites around here that don't have the slightest understanding of branding concepts or understand color theory or know how color works together and communicates a message. I don't know. But number one, I'm not impressed. The navigation on this is a mess. You can't really find information easier. The content flow isn't good. So that's just my comment as a user. All of them are like, well, if you have to like go and submit a form, and look at this. This isn't even updated. This is from a year ago. They don't even have anything updated for 25-26. So, but this is just like very, again, not impressed. Does not look, I hope you didn't pay a lot of money for this, but I'm just saying. Okay, so anyway, so I go up to their building, to their school lot, which is this building, and it's locked. And I'm like, or I couldn't get in, and the doors are locked. And I'm like, okay, so I can't just walk in. So I go to the graduate admissions office. They're like, oh, well, or not graduate, undergraduate. They said, well, they gave me a map, and they said, this is where it's at. And I said, well, I walked over there, and like, well, go to the regular admissions office. Maybe they can tell you like how you can get a hold of them. So I go over to the regular admissions office, and it's a blue house. and walk in, and the kid sitting there told me that building is out of service. The law school building is out of service. And he said, you can call this number and like schedule an appointment with them. So then I go and I walk back over there. He said it had been moved across the street to building 22 in the Camaco Commons or something. Okay, if you go and look there, there is no building 22. I think that's just like a commons area outside. When I went back in there, somebody was walking in. I just walked in. Obviously, it's not closed. So here's a question. Why is somebody at the admissions office telling me that the College of Law building is out of service? Out of service like a Chariot's bus. Anyway, so you might want to just check on who you have sitting up there giving information and what exactly that they're thinking. Also, so anyway, I go in there and I talk to, it's like nobody knows anything. It's just, here's the thing. When I was an undergraduate, I did tours. I knew what was going on at Portland State University. I did tours for the admissions office. I knew what was going on. Okay, I knew what was what. If you don't have people at the front desk that don't know what's going on, I'm just saying. Talk to one of the things, and I was already getting a vibe. I'm not going to be getting any like actual help there, but I was like, do you have somebody you can recommend for civil rights, like First Amendment issues? Oh, I don't know. I'm like, do you not have students an intern? And they're like, well, that's a career office that does this. So I go and talk to somebody that like handles the dean appointments, because again, so I'm asking, do you have a recommendation for civil rights attorney, First Amendment issues? And she's like, well, we just tell people to Google it and ask around. I'm asking the law school. Okay, that's me asking around. And also there was somebody, I had seen one of these. Anyway, that's a separate issue. I'm not going to get into that. Okay, this is just my recommendation. This is just my personal opinion. If somebody's paying you $60,000 a year, not a year, $60,000 over 2 years to attend your law school that only has a 52% pass rate for people who graduate from there that pass the bar, the very least you can do is have a directory. Okay, like where they're practicing, what field that they're in. That is the very least you can do. So my advice I'm just making a comment. I think your website sucks. It doesn't match your brand, and it really looks amateurish, honestly. But secondly, the least you can do is have a directory. Also, one of the things I thought was interesting was that they said that they had a law clinic, and the 3 areas that they work on cases in is wills and trusts, criminal, and immigration. I just thought that was interesting because those 3 things are actually all the sketchy probates that I've been seeing where I'm positive money laundering is going through. Those have to do with wills and probates, a lot of criminals involved in that, and immigration. That's interesting to me. The other thing that's interesting that's tied into these fake probates is James C. Edmonds was the judge over that foreclosure case that was fraudulent. Just saying. So I don't really know what your students are learning, because it's very obvious to me that James C. Edmonds doesn't know what an actual notarization is or what loan documents should look like. Just saying. So I don't know. Hopefully he's not over like real estate law, because it doesn't seem to me like he knows what loans are supposed to look like. Okay, so the last one is police report for hacking. So I've been saying, I've been dealing with these hacking issues for a long time. And so I did everything I could to try to get, these jackasses out of my accounts. Nothing ever worked. In July, I discovered that there was a Google family group that was on my main account, and that's basically how they were they had access to everything, basically. There were 5 email addresses on that. The first one was Phil Tallon with his Houston Christian University email address. And at this point, things don't really surprise me. I mean, the number of things that the people who have been involved in this, it's been shocking to me. The fact that he is involved in it does not surprise me, because I know he's pretty tight with Jason Smith, who was the primary hacker. The other ones, there are 2 people, that other email addresses for other people, that I'm pretty sure that wasn't there. So Seth Meyers is on there, but it wasn't his email address. And there was one other person that I'm pretty sure that they had their account taken over. I don't know, but I've tried to contact them and I can't get a hold of them. The other 2 are my own email addresses, which I did not put on there. And based on some of the access given on my Google Drive to files and folders that I never accepted, that were shared with me that I didn't accept, I know that those other 2 were managed at least by Andy Nardoni and Jason Smith. There may be a couple of other people on there too. But Phil Tallon, that's his actual email address. So, like I said, Phil Tallon is the dean of the School of Christian Thought, and this is his information. And this is the thing. I'm done. I have filed report after report. I would, if I had the option of just having an attorney handle this for me, I would have done this a long time ago, but they blocked my communications. Creepy jackasses bribe people around me, stalking everywhere. So anyway, on October 6th, I went to the Salem police and I filed a report on this, gave them this information, explained, not the whole thing. This is the thing. I don't expect all of these people to understand. I just tried to give this is clear cut. Okay, this is an account that I did not, this is a group that I didn't create. The email addresses that are attached to it are obviously people that were involved in the hacking, the stalking, the intellectual property theft, the harassment, all of this. It's very obvious. This is solid, cut and dry proof that what I'm saying is going on. And yes, there's a lot more other things going on, but this one thing should be easy to investigate. Like the very first report that I filed was about the pirated copy of the Dostoevsky issue of an unexpected journal that had an ISBN. That ISBN is tied to something. It shouldn't be that hard. So there should be a paper trail. So what the heck? So anyway, I filed that report. Have I heard anything back? No, I haven't. But this is the thing. I will just say, I filed all these reports, but again, I know these jackasses are blocking my communications. So, it could have been that. Okay. So anyway, the next thing is basically, I sent a message. What? No. Where'd it go? I'm just going to go this one. Okay, I sent a message to Mark Terry last week, who is the campus administrator of Second Baptist Church in Kingwood, Texas, which I was a member of for 16, 17 years or something like that. The reason I did is because I didn't know, I had discovered all that David Bowers, who used to teach at Second Baptist, all his work had been stolen, and that he had been sabotaged. I also found a couple accounts that I thought had been impersonating him. So I sent a letter to Mark, something I just wanted to know if David was still living, because he's 91. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if somebody's faking his, took over his site. I don't know. So, and also I had sent a message to, I had wanted to contact John and Becky Legacy, who were members of my Bible study, because I know that Becky writes and I had tried to find her site, and it had expired, but I could also tell when I did the search that that she personally they were burying her. So nothing showed up on Google. The only thing that showed up on DuckDuckGo was her Pinterest account. Also, I know that with my original account, I was friends with her on Facebook, and I know that the account that's connected to me is a fake account. So number one, I haven't seen her writing, but I'm pretty willing to bet that her work's been stolen. Somebody's impersonating her to me on my, have a fake account of her. And also, her stuff's probably been sabotaged. And I know that there are other people that, like not Becky, but Bev and Debbie McCrae. I had tried sending them a text message, didn't get a response. Go back and look, and I see that I have a whole list of contacts that were edited on June 27th, 2024. So I'm assuming that the number I have for them isn't even correct. So that's, that didn't go anywhere. The accounts that I'm connected to, supposedly of Debbie, it's an impersonation. So again, this is identity theft on a massive scale. And I also said in this that I was pretty sure that anybody that's known as a teacher at Second Baptist, as a Bible study teacher, has probably been targeted. I didn't receive a response to this. So what I'm assuming is that, I just can't imagine that a pastor of a church wouldn't care that there's a number of people that have had their identity stolen and their intellectual property stolen. So I'm assuming this is more evidence that my emails are being blocked. Okay, so anyway, because obviously if I don't get a response and haven't heard anything in a week or so, then I'm pretty sure that that's what's going on. Okay, title of the stream. We're just kind of go through this. So this is the erasing of Michael Ward. Here's the thing. So Michael Ward was one of the main professors at Houston Baptist University when I went through the program, and he's known for his book Planet Narnia. That's what he was known for. And our very first issue that we did of an Unexpected Journal Advent issue in 2018 was, it wasn't our first issue, but our first Advent issue. The Advent issue, we would always spotlight a particular person. And the first person we honored in that way was Michael Ward. And that's the orange and green one is the cover of that first issue. So that's what he was known for. But he also, in 2020, let me just go back to this. Okay, in 2021, he published a book for humanity, which was basically commentary it was explaining C.S. Lewis's Abolition of Man, because the Abolition of Man is, by C.S. Lewis, is considered one of the most significant works of the 20th century. And it's talking about the dangers of relativism, but it was written to his fellow academics, and he was basically telling them that they were no different than the Nazis if they didn't think that they were held accountable to anyone. But he's doing it in language that's kind of cloaked, and so they're not taking immediate offense to it. That's basically what it is. But because of that, it's a very powerful message, and it's a powerful book. But because of that, it's a hard read. You really have to. I've done reviews on the Abolition of Man. I also did an interview with Dr. Michael Ward in 2021, and I've said this before. It took me the essay that I wrote for our very first issue of an Unexpected Journal that was on the Abolition of Man. I had to go through the book again. I had to read a lot of commentary, because I wanted to make sure that I was understanding it correctly, even though I had gone through it the book in the apologetics program, it's a very dense read. But Michael Ward's book, After Humanity, it just makes it clear. You understand everything that C.S. Lewis is saying. And so it's a very powerful book. So anyway, long story short, I'm just kind of going through, I'm not publishing new stuff, but so much other than these hacked updates, but I've been going through old content and just kind of redoing it. So one of the books I did, or book reviews I did in 2019 as a video, was on The Facade by Michael Heiser. And I was going through what I had written for the discussion guide, or I created a discussion guide for it. And as I was proofing it, I was going through the discussion guide, and I was like, well, I need to have an explanation on what apologetics is. So I started writing it, and I thought, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at because we have this article on the journal that was called What is Cultural Apologetics, to explain it, because it was very obvious after we did our Shakespeare issue in 2022 that a lot of people don't know what cultural apologetics is. So Megan Riles wrote this essay. So I was going back and I was reading through it, and number one, it's kind of interesting because I was like, okay, I can tell she was watching my Bible studies, never interacted with them, but there are some things that I say in my Bible studies that are repeated here. And but then where is it? There's something here. She's quoting somebody called somebody named Andy Crouch. Let me see. And he's talking about these cultural goods. And I was like, what? I mean, this is like, I had never heard of him before. And then I was thinking about it. I was like, that's, Michael Ward talks about that. He talks about cultural artifacts, right? And so anyway, I did a search for cultural artifacts, because I know he's written stuff about it. He talks about it in videos. So I did a search, and then this is what comes up. It is focusing on a tour guide. If you go and you look at the images, even he doesn't come up at all. If you go to let me get an unexpected journal. There's a picture way down here. I mean, the journal does come up, but let me do here. It's not as obvious on Google, but on DuckDuckGo, it's super obvious. But yeah, this is better. But if I was doing it on DuckDuckGo, I'm not going to go back and share that one, but it was like that whole search. It was like, I could tell that his work was being erased. And that's what I mean. Like, in the erasing of Michael Ward, it's like his site wasn't coming up. You know, I've been searching several times, and so now it's starting to come up again. But anyway, also, I just wanted to make an apology to Dr. Ward, because this is the thing. There have been, as I've been discovering, person after person being involved in this, it's been, there have been people that have been involved in this intellectual property theft and the hacking and all of this, that I just, or even just like these small lies to help the thieves construct their fake narrative, right? And so anyway, this is super beat up because I've been carrying it around with me. But last December, I'm not attending Salem Alliance anymore, but I was at the time. And they were handing out these Advent devotionals that were published by Christianity Today. So I start reading through it. The first thing I notice is, it looks to me like same, almost just a little more color to it, but the same layout as the devotional I did for Charlotte Thomas in Light in the Darkness. And then I'm reading these bios, and it's like, these are very obviously fake. They're not real people. These are fake personas that have been created. So what these friends have been doing is that they are involved in these Christian content agencies, and they get all the work of their clients, right? And they create an AI chat model off of that work. So I'm not a client. They just stole mine. They created an AI model off of mine. So they have, for example, I could tell Sarah Salviander, who was a, I don't know, she's a cosmologist, astrophysicist, I don't know what she is. She talks about space, things like that. And she's a Christian, she writes. I knew that she was a client at one point because I could tell by all the fake engagement on her social media profiles. So what I'm assuming is it created a model for her to run her social media, right? So this is cost effective. You have to have somebody creating manually, and this is supposed to be in their own voice. Well, anyway, they have this model. Well, what they do is, yes, they create and have the social media, create the social media for the client, but they're also creating these other models for themselves and their own competing social media accounts. They're basically talking about the same sort of things, so they're building it off their client work. And I feel confident in saying that because I've seen enough of them and ID them. And then it looks like they mix the two. So we're going to take Sarah and this other person and mix it. And so they have these little hybrids of, based on this client work. So and they spit out all this Christian content. This is based on all those fake personas. This first essay in here, or this first day one devotional, I could tell it was Sarah. I don't really know her work really well, but I read some of it, and it was clear enough to me this is based off of her work. And then I was going through some of these others, and there was one, I was like, okay, this is mine. I could tell it was based on me. But the thing is, it's like, I don't know if the people okaying this don't actually read it, because they're just like, it's just so weird to me. It's like, all these people should have the education and the background to edit, and because anything times that some AI spits out something, you can't just use it as is. You have to go through it and see if what's there is actually true, if it's any good. I mean, this one, there was one part in there, it doesn't even make any sense at all. It's obviously nobody edited it. How this passed a review, I have no idea. But anyway, so I was looking through, and I can't remember which one it was. The Futures Great Lights. Oh yeah, it was this one. This one. So I go and I'm reading it, and it looks like I'm reading it, and it's like the beginning, it sounds like mine. Like it's based off of my work. And then midway, you can hear the voice change in it. And then I'm reading it, I'm like, this is somebody else. And I know the writing. Who is this? And I was like, it's Michael Ward. So here's the thing. When I read this, I was thinking, okay, is he involved with them? Because one of their fake companies is Clarendon House Press. Michael Ward, he was at Blackfriars. There's some Clarendon House something. So I'm thinking, is he involved in this? Did they spit this out based on the AI model that they built off my work, and then he just at some point, halfway through, he just started, okay, I just have to redo it, the last part. I didn't know what it was. It was either that, or they had a Michael Ward model too, and they're like, oh, mix Carla and Michael Ward, and that's what came out. So until I came across the fact that he's being erased. And his work, because this is what they do. They steal work, and then they sabotage the original and try to erase it. This is what they've been trying to do with me. And ongoing nonstop, over and over and over again. I mean, even my my facade review that I just, where is it? Let's see. Let's see if it comes up. Raise to walk. It didn't come up in DuckDuckGo. There's two different search engines. Let's see if it comes up. Oh, it does. It comes up in Google, but it doesn't in DuckDuckGo. My review, nor my, this I did search in DuckDuckGo, which is the one that I, the browser I usually use. My 2019 video review and this page de-index didn't come up. I mean, it's ongoing and deliberate sabotage. So, here's the thing. I could go more into this in the detail. People are familiar with search engine optimization specifically. I'm not going to get into it. I'm just saying. Specifically, like for local businesses, local SEO, you'll understand the methodology that's gone into this sabotage. It's not only trying to bury his work, but also I think replace him as somebody who talks about these cultural artifacts, whatever, with Andy Crouch, who has labeled it as cultural goods. I have screenshots of this. I'm not going to get into it here. I mean, I could walk through it step by step, but I mean, it's like, first you have to understand the concept of how people place certain information so that the algorithms think that one person is another, or that this is a valid person, right? Because that's part of what's going into all of this identity theft. It's not just they're stealing identities, they're also placing false information in strategic places so that it fools the algorithms into thinking that person is somebody else. But it's also used for sabotage as well. So anyway, I just have to say, Dr. Ward, I'm sorry I doubted you, but this is the thing. There's been a lot of, Phil Tallon's involved. I'm sorry. I didn't until I saw this. I didn't know for sure if he was involved or not. But now I know that he is definitely a victim, just like so many other people are. So anyway, I'm going to continue to document it. And for everybody who's been following along, I know that sometimes it's difficult because my videos get restricted, they get blocked, comments, you can't make a comment, it gets deleted or whatever. So if you've been making the effort to follow me, thank you. For everybody's been praying for me, thank you very much. It's frustrating. It's a little shocking to me every time I come across somebody new that's involved. But at this point, it's not surprising. But just to say, I do have, it's not peace as I'm okay with what's going on. I'm not. I will continue to document it, and I will continue to search for representation so I can sue the shit out of every single one of these people and every single agency that's involved as well. But just as far as day to day going through, do I like having to focus on this? No, I don't. But I have peace that God told me how it ends, and I don't know the in-betweens or how it's coming about, but I know he's going to be bringing people that are going to achieve the end, and these people are going to be exposed, or they already are exposed, but they are not only going to be exposed but held to account. And for anybody watching this that thinks, oh, well, nobody watches her stuff, I don't have to worry about doing anything. They jack, you think that, but they jack the metrics. I had a post on Twitter about the hacking of my Zotero, which is for citations account, and the IP address, there was one of them was from Revere, Massachusetts. The actual views on that were 3,700, There were a number of reposts and comments. I didn't see any of those. They had me like, I don't know what it is, a ghost account, whatever. I don't know. I didn't see any of those. For me, it was only showing 44. On my YouTube or my Google Analytics, they have it somehow. There's some filter or hack or whatever where what's showing as monthly traffic is really what I get in a day. I've had, when I first started going back and looking at it, I had like on Cloudflare, it said I had 47 users in a month. Now it's up to 76,000. And you can say, okay, some of it's bots. Not all of it. I mean, some of it maybe, but not all of it. When I found a report in Google Analytics that said the first use by screen, so that's an actual user, is over 50,000. Just the first user, first use. It doesn't count if they go into anything else, or I think if they visit again. It's first use. So if you're putting your trust in the fact that it doesn't, my videos and my posts don't look like anyone's watching because the numbers are low, you're putting your trust in a faulty foundation, because those are altered analytics. Just saying. So anyway, also, here's the thing. Let me, okay, I forgot to do this. I'm almost at the end. I should have turned off my camera and turned it back on because they've been unsyncing my audio and video, but whatever. If it does that, I'll just edit it. So resync it and re-upload it. So anyway, for people in other countries, I know that there's people in other areas that are watching. And I just have to say, if you're praying for us, me specifically for the U.S. as a whole, thank you for your prayers. So anyway, I thought about this and I forgot to put it up, but if you look my outro video, if you look on what it says on there, it says in memory of Ida Janella and my grandma. I don't know what the whole story of my grandparents' life was, but when I was old enough to know, just be aware of my grandparents. My grandpa he was basically highly medicated and just sit in a chair and mumble. And my grandma, they didn't have very much money at all. She didn't have a lot, but she trusted in God. And even though their circumstances weren't great, she was a very joyful person. My cousins would, they'd always go and try to make my grandma laugh, and she would just laugh and laugh and laugh. And she didn't have a lot, but she appreciated what she had. And one of the things that I include in my testimony is that the reason I wanted to become a Christian was because I saw it and saw who God was in the life of my mom and my grandma. They would pray and the earth would move. Things changed. So for all of you who are somewhere and you're thinking that you can't do anything, or that all you can do is pray, that's the most important thing, right? That is the most important thing. And I don't think that I would have the peace that I do, the confidence that I know that God's going to come through and do what he said he told me he would do if I didn't have people praying for me. So, thank you. But anyway, that's the update. That's the update. I have yet to find someone whose job it is to execute justice, actually do that. And the other thing is, like I mentioned in one of the streams that I've had, especially like, investigating the whole thing with the fraudulent sheriff sale. It's like, well, what it basically saying, what is it to you? Well, here's the thing. We as God's imagers, it's our job. It's like, is it Micah? Walk justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Seek justice, love mercy. Yeah. And so when we see something that's unjust, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to do something about it. In Ezekiel chapter 3, the Lord tells Ezekiel, when you see something wrong, you have to go and say something about it. Otherwise, you are guilty of the sin. And if you go and you say something and they don't change, or you confront something about it and they don't do it, then that's on them. But the first thing is that if you just sit back and are passive about it, you're guilty of the sin. And, the other thing too is that being in Second Baptist for 16, 17 years or whatever, I know that that's what the people that I was in Bible studies with, I know that that's what they do. I know that that is what Ed Young's church would do, because that is the type of thing that they've done. There's a story about this man who heard about, in the church, who heard about that, I don't know if it was Iraq or Afghanistan, but all these helicopters were being shot down because there wasn't any protection on the bottom side of the helicopters. And so, snipers on the ground would just shoot them down. And so he heard about that and he was like, okay. And he had an idea and shipped over these plates and had them attached. And so that our servicemen were protected. This is the job of the military and the government. And they weren't doing what should have been done to protect the service members. And this man at the church just heard about it, had an idea, and he went and fixed the problem. When Harvey hit, Kingwood was wiped out on Wednesday morning. They had text messages going out, and they were organizing crews to go out and muck out houses. They probably mucked out a huge percentage of the Houston area houses that had been flooded. This is the thing about, I don't know about now, but when Dr. Young was the pastor, they would do things. If they saw a need, they would fill it. If they saw a problem, they would fix it. And if they came to a mountain, they would move it. That's what they did. That's what they did. And those were the people I ran with for 16 years. So when I see something like this, where a house is being stolen and people's identities are being stolen, am I going to sit back and do nothing? Not to mention that they're doing it to me. So anyway, I don't know what the deal is with this state. It doesn't seem to me like the law enforcement has any concern about actually enforcing the law. It doesn't seem to me like, it's not even just that. It's just like people in general just seem very passive. It's like, oh, yeah, oh, interesting. That's an interesting story, but, not actually doing anything. And I don't know. I guess I've lived in Texas long enough that that's just not me anymore. So anyway, that's enough for today. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. Talk to you later.